They see you from across the room, a flicker of predatory intent in their eyes as they scan for a target. They test the waters with a seemingly innocent comment, a carefully crafted probe designed to find a crack in your armor. But when their toxic energy, their manipulative agenda, meets your presence, it doesn't just stop, it shatters and dissolves into nothing. This is not luck. It is a fundamental law of spiritual physics, a protective shield forged in the very fires they seek to ignite in others. Welcome back to the Sigma male community, the one place that understands that true power isn't shouted from the rooftops, but emanates from the silent, unshakable core of a man who has mastered himself. Today we delve into the profound reasons why evil, in all its forms, finds itself utterly powerless against the true Sigma male. This isn't about superstition. It's about a state of being, an internal fortress so complete that it becomes a divine shield, repelling darkness by its very nature. 1. Built from forged scars, not fragile flesh. The first and most fundamental reason evil cannot gain a foothold is that the Sigma male is not a man of fragile flesh, but a being forged in the crucible of his own past suffering. He is not merely a survivor of life's betrayals, hardships, and silent battles. He is an alchemist of agony. Every wound that was meant to break him was instead transmuted, transforming his very essence into something akin to tempered steel. His scars are not marks of vulnerability that he hides in shame. They are his battle honors, etched into his soul as a permanent record of his resilience. Where a normal man carries trauma, the Sigma carries wisdom. Where others have open wounds that fester with insecurity and doubt, he has cauterized his pain, turning it into a source of immense, unshakable strength. This is a process that evil, which preys on weakness, simply cannot comprehend. When a manipulator or a user encounters a Sigma, they are not meeting a victim. They are meeting a warrior who has already faced the hell of his own inner demons and emerged not just intact but more powerful. They sense an unbreakable core, a man who has already walked through flames and now wears the ashes as his armor. Evil seeks a void to fill, an insecurity to exploit, a fear to amplify. But in the Sigma, it finds only solid ground, the quiet, profound certainty of a man who has died 1,000 deaths in the solitude of his own mind and rebuilt himself from the ground up. There is nothing for evil to latch onto, no crack in the foundation, and it recoils not out of respect, but out of a primal recognition that it is facing a power it cannot devour. 2. Weaponized stillness, silence as sovereignty. In a world drowning in the noise of performative outrage, desperate pleas for validation, and the chaotic chatter of the insecure, the Sigma male's primary weapon is his stillness. His silence is not a void, it is a calculated and sovereign territory that he commands completely. Toxic people, narcissists, and emotional predators are fundamentally parasites that feed on reaction. They require your anger, your frustration, your pleading, and your drama to fuel their narrative and distort reality. They poke and prod, hoping to elicit an emotional response that they can then twist and use against you. But when they are met with the glacial calm of the Sigma's silence, they starve. It is a vacuum that suffocates their manipulation, leaving them exposed and powerless. This stillness is an active force, not a passive retreat. His unwavering eye contact as you spin your web of deceit is not him listening. It is him delivering a silent verdict. His choice to withhold a response is not a sign of weakness. It is the clean, swift fall of a guillotine on your agenda. In the economy of power and influence, where most people hemorrhage their energy through needless words and emotional outbursts, the Sigma's silence allows him to accumulate immense reserves of personal dominion. He understands what the Stoics knew. The man who is master of his own emotional responses is master of any situation. Evil cannot fight what it cannot engage, and it cannot engage a man who finds more power in a controlled breath than in 1,000 angry words. 3. Reality over delusion, no false hope addiction. Most people live in a state of self-imposed delusion, clinging to the fragile life rafts of maybe and what if. They tell themselves that the toxic partner will change, that the deceitful friend will suddenly become loyal, that things will just magically get better without any evidence to support it. This addiction to false hope is the playground of evil. It is the carrot that manipulators dangle to keep their victims paralyzed and compliant. The Sigma male, however, is a ruthless realist. He has no tolerance for this kind of fantasy. He systematically drowns these delusions without a shred of remorse because he understands that clinging to a lie is a form of self-betrayal. He trades potential for proof, dreams for data, and promises for patterns of behavior. This commitment to objective reality makes him impervious to the common tools of deception. If your actions misalign with your words more than once, you are not a project to be fixed. You are a liability to be excised. If your behavior demonstrates a pattern of disrespect, you are not given a third chance. Your access to his life is simply revoked. He will not burn his energy trying to convince you to be a better person. Instead, he will torch the entire bridge of what if that connects him to you and walk away through the flames of the hard truth. Evil thrives on the emotional investment of its victims, on their desperate hope that things might improve. The Sigma offers no such investment. He sees things precisely as they are, and he acts accordingly, making him an impossible target for those who build their empires on illusion. 4. Spiritual autonomy beyond dogma. A man's spirit can be his greatest strength or his most exploitable weakness. For many, faith is a set of rules borrowed from an institution, a dogma inherited without question. This kind of second-hand spirituality is easily hijacked by evil. It manifests in controlling cults, manipulative gurus, and systems of belief that demand blind obedience over individual conscience. They weaponize the concept of God, turning it into a tool of shame, guilt, and control. But the Sigma male's connection to the divine is not borrowed. It is forged in the profound and sacred silence of his own solitude. His faith is a deeply personal, autonomous experience. He questions the scriptures, he challenges the gurus, and he discards any comfortable lie that asks him to outsource his own moral judgment. Because his spiritual compass points only to the divine echo within his own sovereign spirit, he cannot be manipulated by external religious authorities. You cannot weaponize God against a man who knows that voice firsthand. A man who has met that presence not in a crowded temple, but in the quiet wilderness of his own heart. Religious and ideological puppeteers find no strings to pull on him. He understands that any system that demands the surrender of his rational mind in exchange for salvation is not a path to enlightenment, but a cage. This spiritual independence is a powerful shield. It anchors him to a truth that is beyond the reach of any earthly manipulator, ensuring that his ultimate allegiance is to the Creator, not to the creations that claim to speak for him. 5. The unblinking observer sees you first. The Sigma male operates on a different level of perception. Before the average person has even settled into their environment, he has already conducted a thorough audit of the social dynamics at play. He doesn't just enter a room, he scans it, absorbs it, and understands it in moments. While you are busy adjusting your social mask, crafting your opening line, or preparing your performance, he has already dissected your true intentions. He sees the subtle tells that most people miss, the forced smile that doesn't reach the eyes, the rehearsed vulnerability in your voice, the predatory hunger that you try to conceal behind a facade of charm. He is the unblinking observer, a student of human nature who trusts patterns over platitudes. This preemptive perception is not a mystical power. It is the result of a life spent in quiet observation rather than loud participation. He has learned to filter out the noise and focus on the signal. He sees the chess board from above while everyone else is merely reacting to the last move. This means that by the time an evil or manipulative person decides to make him a target, they are already at a severe disadvantage. He has already seen their motive, analyzed their strategy, and filed them under potential threat, or more often, utterly irrelevant. You cannot launch a surprise attack on the watchman who saw you coming from a mile away. His observation is his first line of defense, and it is a wall that most will never even realize they have failed to breach. Take a moment and feel this. While others are mindlessly scrolling, endlessly distracted by the trivial, you already feel that gravitational pull toward a deeper truth. You feel it in your bones. Not everyone will understand why you choose to sit in silence at the edge of the crowd, why you prefer observation to conversation. They might mistake your detachment for arrogance or your silence for weakness. They have no idea that you are not being antisocial. You are scanning the battlefield. You are conducting reconnaissance of the human heart. What they perceive as loneliness is, in fact, your strategic vantage point. And that is why evil always, inevitably, trips on the silent tripwire that you laid in the quiet moments while they were busy seeking the spotlight. You see the trap before it's even set. 6. Trust his own verdict, un-gaslightable. The insidious weapon of the gaslighter is to shatter your reality by weaponizing doubt. They make you question your own perceptions, your memory, and your sanity until you become completely dependent on their version of events. This is a form of psychological warfare that destroys countless people from the inside out. For the Sigma male, however, this tactic is utterly useless. His internal courthouse is the highest authority in his life, and its verdicts are final. He does not require external validation for his own experiences. He doesn't need your confession, your admission of guilt, or permission from a peer group to trust what he intuitively and logically knows to be true. When a manipulator tries to twist the facts, deny their actions, or convince him that he is overreacting, they are not engaging in a debate, they are howling at a mountain. The Sigma's certainty is a vault, sealed from the inside. While others might plead, "But you have to believe me," he has already moved on, not in anger but in the calm certainty of his judgment. He has spent years honing his perception and learning to trust the data his senses and intuition provide. This self-trust is not arrogance. It is a prerequisite for sovereignty. Gaslighting is an attempt to colonize a person's mind, but the Sigma's mind is a sovereign nation with impenetrable borders. 7. Exile-Proof, no herd mentality. The most common lever of control used by social manipulators and toxic groups is the fear of exile. The threat of being cast out, cancelled, or ostracized is enough to keep most people in line, forcing them to betray their own values in exchange for a precarious seat at the table. To threaten a Sigma male with banishment, however, is like threatening a ghost with its own chains. It's a meaningless gesture. He never traded his soul for social acceptance in the first place. His sense of self is not derived from his position within a tribe or a hierarchy. While others desperately fear being pushed out into the cold, the Sigma often chooses the wilderness for the clarity and freedom it provides. You cannot cancel a man who has already canceled the world's need for his approval. You cannot threaten a man with solitude when solitude is his sanctuary and his source of strength. Evil uses tribal fear as its primary currency, but with the Sigma that currency has no value. His freedom and his power thrive in the very isolation that others dread. Attempting to exile him is a futile exercise, as he will simply use the space and silence you've given him to build an even stronger fortress of selfhood. He is exile-proof because he was never truly a member of the herd to begin with. He walks his own path, and that path is not subject to the whims of any group. 8. Boundary landmines, consequences without warning. Most people, when their boundaries are crossed, will issue warnings. They will argue, negotiate, explain, and plead, giving the offender multiple opportunities to retreat. This process, while seemingly civil, often just provides a roadmap for the manipulator, teaching them exactly how far they can push before meeting real resistance. The Sigma male operates differently. His boundaries are not fences with warning signs, they are landmines. If you cross his clearly established, albeit unspoken, line of respect, there is no dramatic explosion. There is no negotiation. There is only the silent, instantaneous detonation of your access to him. He will not waste his breath explaining his borders because he knows that those who intend to respect them don't need the explanation, and those who intend to violate them will ignore it anyway. His enforcement is his explanation. This sudden withdrawal is not a passive-aggressive retreat, it is a strategic erasure. Toxic people, like vampires, scramble for the drama and emotional energy of a confrontation. The Sigma denies them even the crumbs of a reaction. He simply disappears from their life, leaving them confused and starved of the conflict they crave. This method is incredibly effective because it bypasses their entire manipulative toolkit and delivers a consequence that is as swift as it is absolute. 9. Pain integrated, scars as shields. There is a profound difference between a man who has healed from his pain and a man who has integrated it. Healing often implies a return to a state before the wound, a desire to forget and cover up the scar. Integration, on the other hand, is the process of allying with your pain. The Sigma male does not numb his trauma or rage against it. He sits with it in the fire of self-reflection until it yields its secrets. He learns the lessons it came to teach, and in doing so, transforms that pain from a source of suffering into a source of profound wisdom and perception. Evil, particularly the kind wielded by emotional predators, hunts for unhealed trauma like a shark scents blood in the water. These predators are experts at poking at old wounds, triggering guilt, shame, and past ghosts to gain control. But when they try this with a Sigma, they are met with a startling response. Instead of reacting with the expected pain or fear, he greets these old ghosts like familiar teachers. The very things that are meant to be his triggers have become his shields. You cannot blackmail a man with a past he does not regret. You cannot shame a man who has already forgiven himself. His integrated pain has cauterized his vulnerabilities, turning what should be his weakest points into impenetrable armor. He has walked through the darkness so many times that he is no longer afraid of it, and he certainly isn't afraid of those who try to wield it against him. 10. Pattern Decoder, Truth over Theater. Most people experience the world through the script. They listen to the words people say, believe the stories they tell, and get swept up in the emotional theater of it all. The Sigma male ignores the script entirely and watches the director. He understands that words are merely props, often used to distract and conceal. The real plot is revealed in behavior, in patterns, in the subtle inconsistencies that betray the performance. A person might deliver a flattering promise, but he clocks the momentary micro-sneer that flashes across their face. They might offer a tearful, seemingly heartfelt apology, but he notes the dry eyes and the strategic timing. He knows that evil, in its social form, is almost always a performance. Because he never suspends his disbelief, he cannot be fooled by the actor. He is the quiet audience member who sees the strings on the puppets. He doesn't need a dramatic betrayal to recognize a threat. He only needs to observe 2 or 3 minor inconsistencies between a person's words and their actions. For him, this isn't just a red flag, it's a data point that completes a pattern. And once the pattern is identified, the person behind it is not just labeled as wrong or untrustworthy, they are dismissed as irrelevant. He has no interest in playing a part in their drama, and so he simply walks out of the theater. 11. Divine Solitude, Alone with God. Finally, we arrive at the ultimate armor, the core of the divine shield, the Sigma's embrace of solitude. He does not just tolerate being alone, he craves the sacred space it provides. While the rest of the world is frantically scrolling, shouting, and seeking witnesses for their existence, he willingly enters the void. But it is not a void of emptiness, it is the holy cathedral of silence, a place where the noise of the world fades away and only the deepest truths can echo. It is in this divine solitude that he finds his clarity, his strength, and his direct, unmediated connection with the source of all things, whether you call it God, the universe, or the Logos. Evil feeds on distracted, noisy, and externally focused souls. It thrives in chaos and confusion. But it cannot touch a man who regularly retreats into a space where it cannot follow. How do you manipulate a man who hears a voice clearer and more powerful than your own in the quiet of his own room? How do you threaten a man whose peace is not dependent on any external condition? This state of being is a fortress with no gate for evil to enter. His peace is not a passive, fragile thing. It is a dynamic force field, an unshakable knowing that he walks a path that is guided, protected, and covered. He is alone, but he is never alone. This shield we have spoken of today is not a magical charm or a gift bestowed upon a select few. It is earned. It is the natural, inevitable consequence of a life dedicated to self-mastery and radical truth. It is forged in the daily choice to face reality over delusion, to trust your own verdict over the gaslighting of others, and to find your sanctuary in divine solitude rather than in the fleeting approval of the crowd. This is the path of the Sigma male, a path of quiet strength, profound integrity, and unshakable sovereignty. Let this not be mere information that you consume, but a mirror that you hold up to yourself. See the shields you have already built and recognize the ones you are still forging. We are a community of builders here. So, let your voice be heard in the comments below. Which of these 11 signs resonates most deeply with your own journey? Your story, your insight, is a lesson for another brother walking this same path in silence. If this message struck a chord of truth deep within you, then like this video to send a signal to others who are searching for this understanding. Share it with a man you know who needs to be reminded of the power he holds. And if you have not yet joined our ranks, I urge you to subscribe to the Sigma male community and, most importantly, press the notification bell. Do this because our work here is far from over. We are not just building ourselves, we are building a new standard of masculine integrity in a world that desperately needs it. Stay vigilant. Stay sovereign. And remember that the strongest walls are, and always will be, the ones built within.